Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto video podcast. I'm actually recording this on Wednesday, September 15th. This is the earliest I have ever recorded a podcast for the subsequent Monday release. The reason being, my wife is having a rummage sale the next 2 days, so I'm sure that even if I try and hunker down in the man cave, I'll get interrupted. She'll come down and say, "How much would you take for whatever?" And then this weekend, my wife and I are going to go visit Courtney at her new place, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of dad-type fixing and installing type activities, which Courtney has been learning, by the way. I've been teaching her household electric installation, so switches, outlets, that sort of stuff. She's already learned the importance of turning off the circuit breaker and also then testing for continuity on any sort of device that she's swapping out. She thought she had turned off the breaker for a particular light switch, and she got her first taste of 110 volts. So that's a lesson learned. Also, if you're watching this on Monday, this will be the day that I get the permanent replacement crown for this right rear molar back here. That will be nice because it has really been interfering with some of my cooking experiments, specifically the caramel that I'm working on, or caramel. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the previous podcast, but I am on my second temporary crown right now. And this one also has gotten pulled out due to the caramel experiments that I've been doing. And I got some like temporary glue stuff from Walgreens that allows me to cement it back in. But I can't do any more caramel experiments until this thing is real and solid and cemented in there permanently. One of the questions that I posed all of you last week in the podcast was, would you be interested in a what Steve eats in a week? I was going to say what Steve eats in a day, but what Steve eats in a day is pretty boring and it would be a very short video. I think what Steve eats in a week may still be boring and just a longer video. And when I asked the question, would you be interested in something like that? It was almost a split even of people that thought, yeah, it would be helpful or interesting. And then the other just said, no, don't do it. I'm not going to watch it. I hate those videos, which tends to be the camp that I fall into. And I thought about it quite a bit over the past week, and I've decided I'm not going to do those videos for a couple of reasons. First off, I don't feel that it's my style of video. I've mentioned before on the podcast about how I think people should swim in their lane, and that sometimes channels try and get too big of a swim lane. They start doing all kinds of sort of tangent stuff, and it takes away the focus of the channel. And I feel that I've kind of established a fairly specific focus on this channel with the podcasts, the reviews, and the cooking. And I just feel like if I did grocery hauls or what I eat in a week, it's not me. So there's that. There's also the element that there are, believe it or not, a tremendous amount of very judgy people out in the keto community. And I already get enough of that just in my other videos that I don't know that I feel like exposing myself to a whole bunch of that in a what I eat in a week. Why are you eating that? You shouldn't eat that. That's not keto. To me, after 2.5 years on keto, I just sort of know what I can eat and what I can't eat, and what quantities I can eat. And the only times I've been out of ketosis, I think it's been like 3 times is all in the past 2.5 years, were times where I specifically made the decision that I'm on a keto vacation, and I'm gonna go out of keto, and I'm probably gonna pay for it with some inflammation and some weight gain, but I understand and I know how to get back into keto, and that's that. But I don't want to have to explain that every time I release one of these videos, why I ate a certain thing or why I drank a certain thing. What I think instead might be better, especially as I look towards the new year, when more people decide they're going to probably come on to keto, it always happens. At sort of the end of the year, people start thinking about keto, and then January rolls around and people get into keto. A couple of the videos that I would like to do are sort of as you're getting into keto, here are some good meals to eat. Here are some ways to get into the keto way of eating. Here are some staples that you can do that you can rely upon. I think that would be a good one. I also think the keto pantry, because when I started keto, I had gotten a handful of different keto cookbooks, and they all had all these recommendations for what you should have in your pantry. And I am certain that there are things I have in my pantry that I purchased 2.5 years ago that I haven't used. So I would like to sort of set it up in tiers. Like I said, here are things that you're going to use on a regular basis. Here are things you're going to use occasionally, and here are sort of some specialty items if you really want to get creative. So I'll probably be doing a video like that towards the end of the year. Yeah, towards the end of the year. Another thing that I'm not going to be doing probably anymore is the blood glucose testing on video. I know a lot of people like that, but my concern is that it could potentially mislead people. Not intentionally, but because after 2.5 years on keto, I think I'm pretty metabolically flexible, or fat adapted, whichever is the more appropriate term. I can eat a lot of things that I think would knock a person out of ketosis and doesn't affect me. And as a result, I feel that I may not be representative of a lot of the people that may view those videos. So I may do a review and I try something and it doesn't affect me, but it might affect them. And I don't want to mislead anybody into thinking that a particular food is okay for them to eat because it didn't spike my blood glucose. It didn't knock me out of ketosis. I'm a firm believer that everybody needs to own their own measurements. But I want you to know that if I ever try out a product, I'm doing a review or something like that, and the next day I take a look at my ketones and I'm out of ketosis, or my blood glucose is looking really weird, or I feel inflammation, I'm going to let you know about that. I'm just not going to make it part of the video because, like I said, my concern is that it could mislead people. Additionally, I've also had issues with some of the Abbott Labs Freestyle Libre sensors. About 1 out of every 3 of them, I get some really, really wonky readings. Like 30 points higher than they ought to be or 30 points lower than they ought to be. That's a concern for me as well. I've got 1 monitor left, and these last 2 weeks. So my plan is to hold on to it until I have a video in mind or multiple videos in mind where I can do some tests. And my plan for it is to look at sort of positive glucose control activities. So rather than testing, did this spike my blood glucose, instead I may do something like I'll have a higher glycemic meal and then go out for a half-hour walk and see, did that positively impact my glucose? Or perhaps prior to or with or after a meal, maybe I have something that is a resistant starch, like raw resistant starch, like raw potato starch or raw green banana starch, just mixed up in water and consumed that way. So that ought to be resistant, and it ought to, if the claims are correct, it ought to regulate blood glucose. So probably do a series on that. Maybe also testing the effect of cinnamon, like Ceylon cinnamon, on blood glucose. But that'll be, I want to make sure I plan that out for one thing, and then hopefully my last monitor is not one of these goofy ones that doesn't work. But that's the reason why I'm not going to do on-video blood glucose testing probably anymore. So now I have a question for all of you. I typically release my videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 a.m. Sometimes as late as 8 a.m., but usually at 7 a.m. Central Time, by the way. Now what I've seen looking through YouTube analytics is the vast majority of my viewers are on between 3 and 5 p.m. Central Time. I'm wondering if it makes sense to release my videos later in the day. I don't know when all of you watch. It seems like I do get a pretty good spike in the morning when I release the video, but I'd be curious to know, would it bother you if I shifted my videos and their release to later on in the day, or should I keep them as is? Just curious what you think. Let me know down in the comments below. And with that, we'll take a brief ad break. On the subject of ads, I was talking to my YouTube liaison, Lisa, yesterday about ads and skippable ads and non-skippable ads and YouTube Premium and things like that. And one of the suggestions that I made to her, and hopefully she'll run this up the flagpole, is if you could offer a channel membership perk, which would be no commercials, no ads for that particular channel. Certainly you could get YouTube Premium for whatever it is, $12.95, $12.99, something like that per month, and have no ads on any channels. Plus, there's YouTube Music and the ability to download videos and things like that. But maybe people don't watch that many channels. Maybe they just want one or two channels. And what if you could, as a content creator, offer a perk to channel members where they pay whatever it is, $1.99 a month. There you have a tier that's $1.99 a month, and for those people, they don't get any ads. And Lisa was a little bit lukewarm on it. She felt that it might cannibalize YouTube Premium. My thought is maybe it's sort of a lead-in, a sampler, a trial, if you will, for YouTube Premium. If they like it on one channel, maybe they'll get it on all channels. I kind of look at it like when you go to the mall and you go by the food court and there's that guy with the bourbon chicken on the toothpick and they give you the sample. I don't know. Maybe that's not a great metaphor. But it does make me in the mood for bourbon chicken. And speaking of channel memberships, which I allude to a lot in videos, and I know at the end of videos I'll say, if you want to help support the Serious Keto Test Kitchen, check out channel memberships. Hit the join button, that's what I say. Hit the join button and see what memberships and perks are all about. And really, that's sort of a two-way relationship thing. It helps me tremendously because I incur a fair amount of cost working on recipes. When I've got a difficult recipe or something that I'm having a hard time with, I go through a lot of ingredients and the prices on that adds up. So when people support the channel, that's a huge, huge help to me. In return, I try and provide perks to those people. The biggest one, I think, is getting to see videos early, getting to see it before the general population. And of course, all three tiers of my channel members will get to see this video and any other video that I do early. The thing that I do for my top two tiers is live streams. And the reason I limit it to the top two tiers is I've just found that it's way too difficult managing comments when I do a full-out everybody live stream. One of the things that Lisa told me that I can do is I could do a public live stream, but then limit comments to just channel members. So that may be something that I do probably in October. And likely it'll be a kitchen live stream. So I do this for my sous chef and executive chef tiers. They get to see me in the kitchen work on a recipe. And meanwhile, I'll try and respond to their questions. Like when I've got a little bit of downtime on the recipe, I'll see what people have written in the comments and I'll respond to them. And, I think it might be fun to give everybody a little preview of what that's like. Who knows, maybe you decide it's worth then becoming a channel member yourself. Along those lines, I feel that I'm finally to the point, pretty much finally to the point, with OBS Studio that I will be able to start using that on live streams. And I think on kitchen live streams, that's going to be really neat. So OBS Studio basically creates, think of like when you're watching a football game or something like that, and they show the people in the booth, or not in the broadcasting booth, but like in the truck, where they're switching between camera angles and putting up videos and graphics and things like that. That's what OBS Studio allows a content creator to do. And Chris Bear from Keto Chow, who's a super duper tech guy, has walked me through how to set this up, how to troubleshoot it, things like that. And to the point that I was comfortable enough showing it off in the executive live chat that I did for my executive channel members earlier on last week. But I think on a kitchen live stream, this could be really sweet because I could have 2 or 3 different cameras set up. I could have one on me, the one that I'm talking to my viewers on, right next to where my laptop is. So as I'm reading comments and typing responses, I'm looking at you. But then I could also have one, on my cutting board and one on my stove. And there's a little keypad called Stream Deck that then you can just hit buttons and you can do like picture in picture, or you can just completely switch the camera angle or split screen or whatever. And I think that has the potential to be pretty neat. I believe, actually I know Dennis from Black Tie Kitchen used it on, what the heck was it that he was doing? I can't remember what video he did, but he did a live stream and he had OBS set up and it was pretty slick. So that's something that's coming soon. I'm pretty excited about that. So one final topic in this shorter podcast, I recently discovered on my Amazon Fire TV a channel called Pluto TV. It's a free streaming service. They've got stuff that's on demand and then they've got stuff that just plays live. But there are channels on there that are very, very specific. Like there's a Beverly Hills 90210 channel. There's a Happy Days channel. There's a Three's Company channel. My wife was pretty excited about those last two. Actually, probably all three of those are all in her wheelhouse. But there's also an America's Test Kitchen channel. And basically, it's episodes throughout the entire history, which is 20, 21, 22 years worth. So I powered it up the other night, and the video that was on, this was back when Chris Kimball had a full head of hair. In fact, a lot of hair. It was pretty cool to watch. And then the next episode was from the current season, where they're at home, which has not been my favorite season. But just wanted to give all of you a little heads up. If you're a fan of America's Test Kitchen, Pluto TV, install the app, where you can watch it to your heart's content. And I will end this podcast in a manner similar to the last several, which is a little bit of a promo for LeanBodyMind. If you head on over and check out the LeanBodyMind channel, last week I did a couple of videos with cleaning hacks. So one is sort of a more all-purpose cleaning hack, and the other is specific to if you have a gas grill. So if you're curious to see what either of those are, I'll include a link down in the description so you can check those out. I think that's going to be it for this podcast. Like I said, by the time you watch this, I should have my new molar and I can start working on the caramel experiments again. Thanks for watching.